is Rebecca Fegan, and I have the great pleasure of having on my show Mike Montague. And he is the operator and creative genius behind Playful Humans. And he also has a marketing business. Now, since my focus when it comes to learning is making things fun and making schooling not a chore, we're talking about gamification and play in our businesses and in our learning things. So I have lots of special questions to ask Mike. Are y'all ready?
I'm ready, Rebecca. Thanks for having me on the show. It's so fun to be a guest instead of a host because you were on the Playful Humans podcast as my guest, and we had a great time. People can go look that up. But I love what you're doing here. There's been so much research from scientific research to our anecdotal experiences around play really making things stick and making it worth doing in the first place, right?
Exactly. I belong to a group called Toastmasters, and the founder of Toastmasters says learning comes best when there is enjoyment. And why would we want to make things harder and ickier for people?
Well, there's something that I say in my speeches and stuff when I talk about this, which is a magic trick that I learned, Rebecca. It's psychology based and science based. People do more of what they find fun and interesting, and they do less of things that they find stressful and boring.
Exactly. Exactly. So, what's your magic trick?
Well, I have lots of magic tricks. I should have prepared one. I'll have to think and see if I can do one. But when I perform on stage, I do card tricks. I have people read people's minds. I do all kinds of fun games. I could give you, I've already made you play my Family Feud games and stuff. I try to work in a lot of jokes because that is a pattern interrupt. It makes people think differently and stuff, and also get them in the right mindset. A lot of times, especially when I'm talking about marketing or in front of business audiences, they take things way too seriously, and their businesses are on the line, and this is very serious business with big dollars, Rebecca. We can't have any fun here. And so I have to kind of break that pattern and really let them know that, oh, it's okay for whatever time we're going to spend together. You can just lower that guard. You can relax. I like to share up front that I DJ'd in bars and clubs in my 20s. I got to have a lot of fun. I opened for Billy Idol and Frankie Valli and did tons of weddings and basically performed in front of, 400 to 500 drunk people twice a week for a decade. Whenever I'm in front of a business audience, you're not going to throw me off, right? At this, I've prepared for everything. I've done shows on 9/11. I've been fired live on stage. I've been maced by police. Everything you could possibly imagine in over 3,000 performances has happened. So you can lower your guard. You can raise your hand. You can get up and leave and go to the bathroom. You don't have to ask for my permission. You can interrupt me. I promise you're not going to throw me off my game, right? And that allows everybody to kind of get into a playful state and relax, that like this isn't some tight wire act that we have to be stressed out while we watch or engage.
Or a golf game where everybody has to be quiet.
Right. Yeah. I just tell people if they throw anything, I have one rule. I prefer $100 bills.
There you go.
Other than that, anything goes.
You have to make them into an airplane first, otherwise they don't sail very good.
Get them
off. So, what was the most stressful time when you had to take the guard down off on your audience because they were all stressed out? What kind of techniques did you use?
I have two really good answers for this. The first one I'll never forget. I did a karaoke show on 9/11. Planes hit the towers in the morning, and 12 hours later, we've all been watching CNN for 12 hours. And I'm supposed to go on stage and DJ and do karaoke at 9 p.m. that night. And believe it or not, the place was packed. I think even the people sitting dinner were kind of just the CNN was on and people are still watching the reports and we don't have any information, but it felt like we had been stressed for like 12 hours straight. And I will never forget it because it was one of the best shows that I've ever done. People needed this release. They needed to laugh. They needed to goof around. They wanted to turn the TV off for a few minutes
Yeah.
and just, watch people sing, Summer Nights terribly in
Mm.
front of other people. And I think you even know the power of music, right, Rebecca?
Oh,
That
yeah, very well.
once you get good vibes going, you get things that they can sing along to, dance along to, the toe tapping beats that people can slowly change their mindset. And I've learned that you can't really force it either. So what I do is allow kind of the bonding and rapport process to take place and allow them to match with me. So I'll start with some really great songs, but I won't ask them to like go sing first thing, right? We're going to turn off terrorist
Right.
attacks and we're going to make you sing Piano Man
Right. Well, yeah, let's
right
add some more
away. No,
stress.
I'll play some music for a while. I'll let them go. I'll sing a song so that they don't have to, and I'll show
Mhm.
them that it's fun, and I'll make some jokes, and I'll go out and talk with them privately at their tables and see if anybody is interested. I'll let them get a couple more drinks in them, and then slowly I'll pull on those threads, or I'll find somebody that loves to sing and was just waiting for me to go, and then we'll get them going, and we'll build momentum throughout the night.
Mhm.
And then, an hour or so into it, everybody's having a great time. Everybody loves it. And people are being more adventurous.
Right. And they're starting to well, in this case, they were starting to pull together and say, we can live through this. We can make it
Right.
through. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we're pretty sure it's not a train.
Yeah, which brings me to my other example was in the pandemic, and this was more long-term stress, right? This
Mhm.
isn't an acute, there was an event, everybody's stressed out today kind of thing. This was long term. I was already working remotely before it was cool and stuff,
Yeah.
so my job was fine, but those last bits of fun, those last real human experiences kind of got sucked out of my life. And so that's when I started Playful Humans. I started the podcast. I started rediscovering the power of play for myself. I did digital detoxes. I started picking up hobbies. I went and bought a bunch of like sports balls and games and dusted off my soccer cleats after like 20 years to go kick the ball around in the park. Like whatever I could do to get out of the house and get some enjoyment and real human interaction and stuff.
Okay. So
Um,
you were talking about a digital detox. What did that entail?
Uh, a lot of things. I had, I think maybe 10 or 12 different rules, and I did this for 90 days where I'll even show you my phone because it's not like most people's smartphones. My phone is black and white and
Mhm.
it doesn't have apps or anything on it. If you're watching the video version, it's a lot better than if you're listening to the podcast. But it's only like text based and stuff. So if I have to find an app, I gotta search it into it. All the alerts, everything that beeps and lights up or vibrates is turned off. And I even bought a dumb phone. It's called the Light Phone. You can go to lightphone.com and it's like 100 or 200 bucks, but it only does text messages and phone calls. There's no apps on it whatsoever. Nothing that streams or anything. They've added
So
some
the
other
only
features.
difference between that and the phones that I grew up with is that this is not attached to the wall and you can get text on it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it
Okay.
was basically like going back to our first cell phones in the 90s, getting a Zach Morris brick phone.
I
And
remember those.
yeah, unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember them too. Um, but there's also if you like Google like a dopamine detox, there's a lot of other things that trigger us. So algorithm loops. I changed my passwords on all my social media to just pounded different keys and stuff,
Yeah.
so I couldn't remember them. And if I wanted to log into something, I had to actually reset the password because there was no way for me to remember it or write it down. And
Hmm.
I didn't do it. I gave people notices. I put an out of office on my email at work, even. And I said, hey, I'm going to check email twice a day at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. if you need me, call my cell phone. Here's my number.
Mhm.
And I put that out of office on. And honestly, everybody else was worried about themselves in the pandemic. Nobody complained. Nobody noticed. My bosses thought it was great. They were like, hey, I'm glad you're going to, focus and get work done. And
Mhm.
I had rules around television viewing. Like I could only watch one show that did not have commercials, that was like an on-demand show per night to unwind. But I went outside and got sun on my face, did a grounding exercise, put my bare feet in the grass, and
Mhm.
I started with drinking water in
Yeah.
the
Oh,
mornings and
yeah.
stuff too.
We discovered that drinking water seemed to be the cure for most of the diseases that we have. I
Yeah.
I was at a point where I was having to go in and started to taking diabetic medicine and everything, and my legs were a mess, and uh, it was horrible. And then I just started drinking more water, and all of my symptoms went away,
Yeah.
and I didn't have to have the medication.
Yeah, I
Oh,
gave up caffeine and everything during that time. I've added something back in now, and this sounds extreme. I realized that I was piling on because I was trying to give a bunch of ideas of things that you can do. But start simple. Start with the stuff that's most stressing you out, and just turn it off.
well,
Right?
Lent is coming, so
Yeah. And I think it was really powerful for me. It allowed me to reset. I started doing some mindfulness and meditation stuff too, like 3 times a day. But that was a crazy time, right?
yeah,
So now there's some of those practices that I keep. They're part of my daily routine. I like others. I've turned back on. I'm basically, LinkedIn is the only social network that I pay attention
right.
to, and the only one on my phone. But I have all the alerts turned off. It doesn't buzz me. It doesn't alert me, and
So
I don't seem to scroll very long on.
how has this affected your mindset?
I think there is a whole bunch of stuff. I wrote about 4 main benefits of play in my book, Playful Humans, and people can check that out for free. You can even download the PDF version for free if you go to playfulhumans.com/book.
Hmm.
Um, you can find it, and it's up on Amazon and stuff if you prefer those other formats. But uh, creativity and confidence, I think, are 2 big ones for your mindset. Being able to focus. We forget how short humans actually passed goldfish for shorter attention spans
Hmm.
over the last 5 or 10 years. And so
Yeah.
for me, it's more about um, finding space to make myself bored that creates my creative energy. That when I'm stressed and I'm running from one thing to another, at the end of the day, I feel exhausted.
Yeah.
When I create space for myself and I do something with my creative energy that's in some sort of play format, and there's a lot of different ways to play. We can talk about that too. But I feel more energized at the end of the day. I go, oh, I
Hmm.
had this cool conversation with Rebecca. That was awesome. I want to do that again. Not, oh my gosh, I sat in 4 hours of Zoom meetings with my boss about the 3 to 5 year strategic plan, and now I'm exhausted at the end of the hour. So
Right.
it's not even that it's the format of what I'm doing, it's sort of my mindset and approach to it. And
So
so,
when you're in a situation where you're listening to the 3 to 5 year strategic plan, and you know it's going to go on and on and on, is there a way that he could present that in a playful manner
oh, for
that
sure.
would shorten that and make it resonate with people?
So my job for the last 10 years at a company called Sandler was the basically like a community engagement job. So my job was to make these things more fun. I hosted the podcast, there are live events, a lot of company meetings, company get-togethers and happy hours and all kinds of stuff. I had other roles and things throughout there too, but that was basically my job, was to be the ambassador for engagement to our internal audiences, our employees and partners and customers, to our external ones and the general public. And there's a lot here.
Hmm.
Um, I could go on for hours, Rebecca, but I'll let you ask me a question here in a second. I think the first things are keep it short, keep it relevant. Again, set an expectation that this is not that serious. If you can fit in jokes, or you can do self-deprecating humor, or if you can play music while people are coming into the Zoom, and just let them know that they can, dance along. If the more you can get them to participate, the better. So, hey, instead of me telling you that's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, why don't you give me ideas, or at least stop every 15 minutes and say, hey, let's do a breakout session. Let's change the energy. Let's talk in the chat. Let's do something else than what we were currently doing. And really, it needs to be significantly faster. So you need to kind of check in every 3 to 5 minutes, but certainly every 15 to 20. You need to completely change the energy. Stand up, move, go to a breakout room, do something other than just filibustering.
So basically, you're changing from this conscious approach to we have to give you information, open up your brain, and then we'll stuff it in, and then and changing that to a more creative, more participatory type of engagement, so that
Yeah,
they're talking
this
to
is
each
a
other and all
teacher,
of that.
right? I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Like, especially with music, you can't learn to play the trumpet by hearing somebody else talk about it. You're going to
No,
have to pick up a
no,
trumpet at some point,
right. Yes.
right?
Well, okay, and just to be fair, I teach trumpet by relating it to navigation, to physics, to history, to English lit, to da, da, da. So they're not going to get just trumpet. They're going to get
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff, and they come out. The weirdest thing that has happened is one of my students was excelling in his English lit class, and he had been flunking before. And so the teacher says, all right, what are you doing? He says, I'm taking baritone lessons.
Yeah.
She said, singing? He says, no, the instrument. What does that have to do with English? He says, what does English have to do with anything?
Or everything. Yeah.
So yeah, but it made him more aware because he was enjoying himself and following his curiosity around, like a cat with a cat toy. They do that kind of
Curiosity
thing.
is a big one for engagement, right? Even if it's in a Zoom company meeting, if you send out the PowerPoint ahead of time and everybody's reviewed it, and then you go up and you show the slides and you read off of the slide what's already on there, we're all going to die. There's nothing
Oh yeah.
curious. There's no suspense. There's no movement. Chapter 1 of my book is about how all mammals on the planet will play with a ball, because a ball is unpredictable, but you also can control it. And so it's the movement between order and chaos that makes life interesting, makes a meeting interesting, makes your day interesting. If you're doing the same boring routine over and over again, humans, we get disconnected, we get bored. There's no uncertainty, there's nothing to be curious about.
Well, and the
If
thing
you're
is,
living in complete chaos, that's overwhelming. It's stressful. We have nothing to latch
right.
onto. We can't get leverage to make anything happen. But when we move between the two, when you grab a ball and you bounce it against the wall, it bounces back unpredictably. But once we catch it again, or we pick it up off the floor if we didn't, we're back to a steady state, and we can reset and we go, oh, okay. And I think the NFL is a perfect example of this. It's the reason it's the number one television show in America is football. Everybody lines up. They have to legally pause for 1 second with nobody moving. And then they say hike, and all hell breaks loose. Huge men slam against each other. The ball goes flying. It's a weird shaped ball that if it hits the ground, it's going to bounce in different directions. And a few seconds later, they blow the whistle and everything goes back to order. And think about that. How many times an hour can you go from chaos to order again? And I'm sure it's just like you teaching anything. We're going to practice it. If you've never played the trumpet, or we're going to make up whatever example we want, when you do it, it's going to be chaos the first
Right.
time. But
It
let's
has
stop
to.
for a second. Let's go back. Let's talk about it. Let's understand it and get some order. And then let's go chaos again. Right. And we're
Well,
not going to learn anything in complete chaos, because we're not getting the feedback loops in order to make sense of it. And if we're in all order and somebody's just dumping information into our brain, we're not going to learn anything either. because we're not getting enough of the experiment time.
Have you ever tried playing catch with a weighted ball?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, you know in your mind that it's going to travel this predictable path, and it doesn't. So you can play with that as long as you want, and it's never going to get boring. It may get a little frustrating, but when we tend to do lots of repetitions and the same pattern, the mind says, okay, this is a set thing, and we can do that without thinking about it. Let's put that over here. It's sort of like driving home, and you get into your driveway and say, oh, I was going to pick up some milk before I got home. And you're sitting in the driveway and it says, where's my milk? Because
Do you know you can do that to your whole life?
they do that.
I hope anybody listening or watching to this realizes that same thing applies to your life. I have to add a year to all my memories because the pandemic was so routine. We were in the same place, that not leaving the house, not making new memories, not learning anything new, that you can just delete that whole year because it was on the repeat pattern. It's like driving home from work.
Mhm.
But if you go and you learn something new, you go to a new place, you travel, you meet new people, you have new experiences, your brain is remembering all of these new things, and it actually expands the time of our memories and it makes our life feel longer. It's one of the reasons, I mean, there's a couple of reasons, but when you're a kid, every year feels like a lifetime because every experience is new.
Yeah.
And every week is a long period of your life. It's a good percentage of your life is the other reason.
Hmm.
When you're 45 like me, a 1 year is a
So,
45th of your life. When you're 10, 1 year is a tenth of your
right.
life. That's a lot bigger chunk. But as we get older, we also fall into these habits where it's just like, oh, I'm gonna do my thing, I'm gonna get up, I take my shower, I eat the same breakfast, I sit in the same seat on my computer, I work all day, and then I finish, and then I go over here and I do watch the same show, or I tune out and I do something else, and we're not engaged in our life. Our brain can just delete it. There's no
Exactly right.
reason for us to store new memories or learn anything.
Right. So how do you overcome the challenges that are presented by what sameness?
Yeah, it's comfort zone stretches, and this is one of my favorite games to play. Rebecca, I have a challenge deck of cards, but have you ever seen the game Taskmaster? It's a game show from the UK. Oh, it's a hysterical. Later, I'll send you a link to one of my favorite challenges. But basically, the Taskmaster makes up this challenge for 5 comedians that they have to complete, and it can be anything. It can be something silly like just get this egg as high as possible without breaking it, and there's no other rules. So that's the only instruction. So it's up to your creativity to see how high you can get it. Can you put it on a plane flight? Can you put it in a hot air balloon? Can you just throw it up in the air really high and catch it? You have 10 minutes to get it as high as you possibly can. Can you climb a ladder and set it on the roof? Whatever, it doesn't matter. But the point is, these challenges are open ended, and a lot of times they use fuzzy measurement, like make yourself most resemble a celebrity, and whoever can do this in 5 minutes or less does it. So some people might pick a Charlie Chaplin mustache and a hat, and they'll go do something and do a pretty easy character. Other people shave their head in 5 minutes and they do something crazy, and it's like, okay, well, then the Taskmaster gets a judge and they award points, like 5 points to the person who did the best and 1 point to the person who did the least, in cascading points. But it's a great example of this comfort zone stretch, right? Because if I said, do the most unusual thing, and we're in a Zoom meeting and we come back, whoever is willing to go the most outside of their comfort zone is going to win the most amount of points, right? So it's this really fun game. And I kind of think about that in a regular way in my life. There was a great I think it was an instructor that said this quote, Lou Tice from the Pacific Institute, who said, are you sitting back all day saying, when will somebody notice me, or when will something exciting happen in my life? Or are you asking, when am I going to do something that's worthy of being noticed? When am I going to do something exciting? There's also a quote from a 90s alternative band that they say in the song, if you're bored, then you're boring, which is really like putting the responsibility where it belongs. If your life is boring, then you need to be more exciting. It's your fault. It's your life. Nobody is going to make this thing exciting for you.
Right.
So I challenge myself every single day of like, what could I do to make this podcast interview the most interesting? What could I do to make my day something that I'm excited about? And if there's nothing on my day that's exciting, I screwed up.
Well, I
I
hope
filled
this
it full of
helps.
stupid stuff. I chose not to do it. I chose to eat the same boring snack and lunch or something. Let me go find something that's worthy of my time and attention and excitement.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like fun. You know, you have your list
Can
of
you do
your
any
agenda
celebrity
on your
impressions?
day, and then it gets down to 2:30, and it says do something crazy.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll take a dance break. I'll call somebody. I'll try and write a joke. I'll try to challenge myself with a puzzle, or sometimes it's even, I gotta, like we did with the music example, I have to build my momentum for this. So whenever I'm going to give a speech, I'll start watching my favorite comedians or whoever is the best performers, and I'll try to find some videos, or I'll just do a Google search of like, what's the most interesting way to start a public speech. Get advice from Toastmasters, like you mentioned. Go find some people that are having fun and hang around them is a great way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too.
I have a couple of people that I follow online, and one of them is my son. And it's funny because we have these discussions during the day and everything, and then I read his blog, and it's so deep, and I'm thinking, I just talked to that guy this morning. He didn't say anything insightful. And I thought, so it's
I thought you were going to go the other way. I thought his blog was going to be like, guess what my mom did today, and he just shares.
He never mentions me. So yeah, but it's amazing because your kids will always surprise you. And me, I've got thousands of kids, because I've been teaching for so long. But okay, so when you are working with clients and you're talking to them about marketing, and they start getting this look on their face, and I am, a lot of my friends are working in their entrepreneurial businesses, and you talk about the business, and they're all excited, and they've written a book, and they've done this and they've done that, and they say, okay, what have you done on marketing? So how do you work with your clients so that it doesn't seem like marketing is some evil thing that everybody has to go through and everybody hates?
It's a great question. And I just, so many things rushed into my head here because I wanted to focus on, with my business Avenue 9, human first marketing, which means let's have a conversation, let's connect, and let's market to humans. And I think way too many people these days try to market to the algorithm. They do search engine optimization, or they want to go viral on social media, or they want to, use some sort of AI robot to do the parts that they don't want to do because they don't like or see marketing. And so that's a common mistake. The second mistake people make, and this happens in sales, especially, I've spent, the last 15 years of my career as a sales trainer as well, and doing marketing for a sales training company. There's something funny that I noticed. And my dad taught me because he was a sales trainer at this company too. But you only recognize bad salespeople. And so the stereotype and what you think you should do in marketing is actually the stuff that is annoying and repetitive or pushy or interruptive, because that's when you notice that somebody is trying to market to you or sell to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody connects with you on LinkedIn and then they send a message with their 30-second commercial asking for 15 minutes of your time, like, we realize that's a salesperson and that's some bad marketing, because that's what everybody else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go to a doctor's office and they ask you some really great questions and you write them a blank check to fix whatever's wrong with you. You don't see that doctor as a salesperson, even though they're making the biggest sales of anyone you know. They're making thousands of dollars an hour oftentimes for what they do. But it's more of a consultative approach. Or when you find somebody that's really helpful and they help you solve a problem and you pay them money and they work and you go, wow, that was a great deal. You don't say, man, that person's marketing and sales were top notch. You go, no, that was a really human conversation. I like that person. They helped me solve a problem and I'm happy to pay the money for it. So
Okay.
I think the biggest thing when I talk to my clients about marketing is you got to not think about marketing. You can't think about advertising. What you got to think about is building trust, building relationships over time, and demonstrating to people your credibility, your reliability, creating a relationship with them so that they know, like, and trust you. And you have to take out what is in your best interest, and you have to only do things that are in the other person's best interest.
Right. So you want to do right by the people that you're working with.
Right.
Okay.
And build value for them. If you're not solving a problem or getting a great return on investment for them, then no matter what advertising you're doing, it's not going to work because nobody's going to buy it. Or if they do buy it, they're not going to tell anybody else about it if they didn't get a great return on investment.
Right.
And the third thing, which I think takes us back to playfulness, is that a lot of people try to follow the path of everybody else. And that treasure map was already followed. It already happened. Somebody already got there. And so you can't take advice from somebody else, but you also can't stand out by doing what everybody else does. So by being weird, by being unusual, by doing things that maybe zig when other people zag, that's where you really get powerful marketing, because they're the only one. You're the only one that fits that box for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people try and go wide. Their target audience is too big. They want to go viral. And what they really need to do is try to get one person and figure out what that person has in common, connect with them, help them solve a problem, and then go find another one. And it's hand-to-hand combat. It's not mass marketing.
Right.
And I'm sure you've seen that in your career. And the reason you've helped thousands of people learn is because you do it in a way that nobody else does. If you did the same thing as everybody else, they can choose anybody else. Or then it comes down to price and they go, well, who's cheaper for these piano lessons? And you can Google cheap piano lessons or a cheap online course about how to play the piano, but it's not going to help you. What helps you is that magic of how Rebecca does it differently and how you help them get these crazy improvements so that they want to tell their friends about it.
Yeah. What do you do about the people that you have helped immensely and they don't want to give you referrals because they want to keep you as their secret weapon?
Oh, that's a good question. I think most people don't ask for referrals or introductions and stuff enough, right? So I think part of it is asking yourself. Part of it is also when you're setting the upfront contract with them as coming on as a client in the very beginning of saying, hey, look, the way I grow my business and I be able to afford to keep teaching you is by helping other people and finding other clients as well. So when I get you a great return, I hope you'll tell somebody about it. Right. Now, if they want to keep you as their secret weapon, that's a little bit different. I would probably have some sort of conversation about how much it costs for me to do that, because I have to do that with my marketing agency, right? A lot of my clients go, well, why don't we just hire you as our VP of marketing? And I go, well, that's going to be really expensive, because if I can help 10 people, you can pay 1/10 of the cost. But if you want to hire my full attention and you want me to be your secret weapon on staff, that's going to cost you 10 times what you're paying.
Yeah.
Right now. So you can either pay me twice as much, or you can introduce me to one person that might also need my services. Which one would you prefer?
Sure.
I think that's a fair example. But also, I think I'm giving you a whole bunch of rapid fire tips. But the other thing is, ideal clients are ideal because they want to tell the world about you and they love it. And some people are just not ideal clients.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
say, hey, that's not part of the way that I like to work. And so it's okay to fire clients, even the ones that you've helped a lot, and go spend your time with somebody that loves you and wants to talk about you.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So, if you were to design an educational program, so you were teaching people marketing,
Yeah.
how would you start?
I have actually done this before. I
That's why
wrote
I
a book
asked you.
that is not available. It was called Marketing Optimization, and I actually named it No Soliciting, which means like you actually learn how to market and sell by not selling stuff. If you're doing anything that's pushy, aggressive, interrupting, you're doing it wrong.
Hmm.
So, challenge number one for me is always a paradigm change and a belief change about what you're trying to do. Um, so, let me ask you a question here, Rebecca, to clarify your question. Would you like to learn more about marketing, or would you like to learn more about how I teach? Because you're a teacher, and I think you have better methods about how you teach somebody something.
The reason I'm asking about the marketing is because one of the premises in my teaching method is that it works with everything.
Ah, yeah,
Ah, so when you're talking about your marketing, it sounds like your first step is finding out what they think marketing is.
right. And
Because
trying
once,
to
yeah,
redefine what that is in a new way.
clarify it, right? Show them what it isn't and show them what it is,
Yeah.
all right? And then
And then
find
I
out
think you
where
would
their
agree with this
gaps are.
too. I actually take sort of a multi-layered approach with actually trying to change somebody's behavior or improve their skill, which is I don't think you can get better without reps. So for me, any marketing is better than no marketing. And if you wait until your marketing plan is perfect, you're going to be waiting for the rest of your life, or you're going to run out of money before you actually even launch anything.
Hmm.
So I kind of tell people that the only way to get good at something is to be bad at it first. And so let's try some bad marketing. And they go,
Hmm.
I don't know what to post on LinkedIn. Well, posting anything is better than posting nothing. Or if they say, I don't know what my first podcast is going to be like. And I go, it's going to be bad. Let's move on and let's do a bad one first. And then we'll get better along the way. But you know what the number one reason nobody listens to your podcast or watches your video is? You didn't make one. That's the number one reason why people don't watch your podcast, right? So I always encourage people to take tiny actions and to get started and to get
Hmm.
movement, and then we can adjust from there. And
Right.
then repetition kicks in, and then we can talk about strategy. Then we can talk about tactics, or how we get better, or make this blog post better, or we can resonate with our target audience and other stuff. But first, I want to know, what do you have to say? What do you want to tell the world? And let's go do that. And then we'll improve the tactics
Right.
from there.
So you base it. You start out finding out what they think about marketing, and then you have to try it to see what you know and what you don't know. You fill
Yeah.
in the gaps so that you say, okay, all right, we've got the right message. We know what we're selling, but we're going to the wrong market, or we're using the wrong media or whatever. So we're going to try several different things to find out what works. And then once you've got that, then you practice it by taking it apart and saying, okay, this worked, but that didn't work. Let's work on just this part instead of, work on the whole thing and start over every time.
Yeah.
So,
I see
yeah,
people a
you
little bit from,
managed to master the first three steps of my method.
that's awesome. I was going to say, the only thing in marketing really, as far as the tactics then on the end of the strategy that you need to know, I kind of stole from Seth Godin, which is, you kind of got to know what you stand for, what your unique value proposition is, what makes you different from everybody else. You got to know who you're trying to help, and you got to know the change you're trying to make for
Mm-hmm.
them, right? If we
Yeah.
kind of know where we are, that's the starting line, the finish line, and the change we're trying to make there, the gap we're trying to close, problem we're trying to solve for them, then the rest of it is really just tactics. It's just stuff that you can move around, and like you said, A/B test, we can get better at, we can get worse at, or we can decide um, who we want to reach and stuff. But I think if you don't really know yourself, you don't really know who the other person is you're trying to reach, and you don't know the message that you're trying to get at, then all those other tactics don't matter.
Right.
Then you're just throwing stuff at the wall. So
Okay. So
for me, those
what was your approach then to who you are and who you're trying to reach in your Playful Humans? How is that different than your marketing
yeah,
business?
they were two completely different things, although I did that same process. So for me, there's three threads of my career we've talked about that we've gone through. In my 20s, I was an entertainer, and I've always been a public speaker, performer, podcaster, broadcaster, something that I was doing as like playing for a living, entertaining people, engaging people. I grew up playing a ton of sports, mostly soccer and basketball, but a ton of other sports and games. And I was just a really playful person there. The second thing is technology. My mom won a computer in a radio station contest. It was an Apple IIc in 1986. And back then we didn't have programs, so I had to learn how to program the computer in order to use it. And we ended up like buying a modem a few years later and learning how to access news groups and the starts of the internet and stuff. And so I just inherently kind of figured out tech. I started designing websites. Something we haven't mentioned is I built over 200 websites for companies, including the Kansas City Chiefs and big radio stations and grocery stores and stuff like that. And so I have this nerd track of internet marketing and computers. And then the sales and marketing side of like being in broadcasting and being in internet marketing and then working for a sales training company for 15 years gives me the sales and marketing background that I have. So Playful Humans was really an expression of the value I saw from that playful side, the entertainment of playing for a living, and that you don't have to be a struggling artist, that there's a middle class of creators that you can design an ideal life of playing for a living and expressing stuff. And I wanted to reach to people that had only lived this corporate path. They'd only had a 9-to-5 job. And for me in my 20s, I did not make great money. It was hard, but I learned that you can survive by having a whole bunch of different gigs than having one job. And it's actually
Mhm.
less risky the more playful you are and the more unusual your career is. The more confidence you build, the more connections you make. And if you have 30 different ways you're paying your bills, if you lose one of them, it's not that scary. If you put all your eggs in one corporate ladder bucket and you get downsized in the pandemic, that hurts. That's
Right.
a lot harder to struggle. In
So,
making Avenue 9, it was kind of practicing what I preach in all of the other stuff. I took that sales and marketing background and I was like, I want to create a career for myself that's on my own terms. I've done the corporate thing, for a while. I've settled in. I want to be more playful, but I also want to make a difference and I want to help other people build their small businesses
mhm,
in a way that is playful, it's creative, it's human first and centric. And so I thought about helping people that um, don't quite realize that with today's tools for marketing and AI, you can compete with big brands. And if you're in a 1 to $20 million business, you can actually compete like a big 300 million plus company now, and you can do cool things. Also with AI, I think we're in a world that you can make anything. So the
mhm,
question becomes, what do you want to make? And how do you tap into that creative spirit to make something that serves somebody or builds a connection with somebody and builds a relationship to help you market your business? And so
mhm,
Avenue 9 for me was really a new outlet for me to uh, do what I'd been doing, helping people in sales and marketing, but in a playful, creative way, in a way that remembers our humanity in this world where marketing and marketing automation is getting out of control. sales
Yeah. Yeah.
agents and AI is getting out of control.
You
And to
start
really
looking
kind of,
at things and you say, I've seen that before, but they just switched out the name on the.
yeah, exactly. It was like, let me take all of this experience that I have in sales and marketing and the way I understand tech and AI and do it in a fun, playful way that's human first. And so I'm trying to tie all three of those threads together to reach people that need help, to do stuff that I love doing, and to solve a real problem, which is all the algorithms are full. We don't need more slop. It's impossible almost to go viral. And even if you do, it doesn't mean anything
It means
anymore.
that you've got a cuter cat than your neighbor does.
Right, exactly. You nailed it. But also we've kind of passed like what I call like peak SEO. Like there was a time in the 2000s when I was in internet marketing where if you wrote a really good blog post and people were searching for that topic, it would rank in the search results and you would get traffic and people would buy from you. And it was a
Mhm.
really cool way to reach new people. Now with AI, all of those blogs exist. Every search term in Google has stuff ranking for it. It's impossible to make something new and have anybody really find it. So what we've done is we've actually circled back to what sales and marketing was 20, 30 years ago, where we need to go find individuals one by one in hand-to-hand combat, make a connection with them, and then they'll follow your stuff. And then they'll see it in the feed if they know who you are. But we none of us need more content. None of us
Right.
need more influencers to follow. Nobody needs more SEO optimized blog posts.
Right. So it's more centered around direct response.
Yeah. And even more than direct response, because I think that still has a bad rap of like direct mail and I'm gonna do something to you and you're gonna respond to my advertisement.
Mhm.
It's more about like a direct connection, a direct
Mhm.
human conversation and engaging with one person in a way that brings value to them.
So if you were to take this whole conversation and wrap it up in a bow, what would you say?
I would say that in my life and my career, whether it's sales and marketing or um, whether it has been in tech or whether it's been in entertainment, the one thing that I keep going back to is that nobody is on your journey. You have something unique and special that nobody else has. And so you have to really kind of figure out what that is. And it may be counterintuitive. You may think, oh, well, nobody will pay me for that because that's easy for me. And
For
I
me.
think even what you do in teaching, that's not easy. Um, but the way you learn and the way you help people learn and the way you think, Rebecca, is different than other people. And that's where the magic is. So a lot of people try to turn themselves into knots to fit into a different,
They
shaped
want
hole
to
than their
conform
peg was
into
made
what
for,
they're
right?
supposed to be, and fit you in the box, and the box is never ever ever going to be big enough.
No, and it's uncomfortable, and everybody else is trying to fit into that box too. So once you realize that you don't need it, you don't need the box to survive, to thrive, to have a playful life, to make money, enjoy your life and your career, then you're really set free. So I'll end with this quote. It's my favorite quote by a former Supreme Court justice named Howard Thurman, and he said, "Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive and then go do that, because what the world needs is more people who have come alive."
Yes, it
And
works better with live people than dead people.
yeah, it's a beautiful way of just saying what I was trying to explain there. And what we've been talking about for an hour is go have more fun. People are
Right.
attracted to fun. People are attracted to happy. They're attracted to you in when you're in your playful spirit, and they're repelled when you're trying to be fake, you're trying to fit into a box, you're trying to fit an algorithm, or you're
Exactly.
trying to do something that is not in your talent and wheelhouse.
So everyone, check out Mike Montague's book. It's Playful Humans, and go to his site and discover this amazing fellow, because he's got some podcasts that will just absolutely blow you away. And if you're interested in learning anything, talk to me at thefeganmethod.com, and you can see how I spell Fegan right there down at the bottom right here. So you put the Fegan method all in one word.com and make yourself known to me, and I will have so much fun with for you that you won't know what hit you. Thank
I
you very
love it.
much.